We're back with our special report on Proposition A. Joining me now is political analyst Ron Nehring, along with Scott Crosby, president of the Associated Builders and Contractors, and Pat Zaharopoulos with the Middle Class Taxpayers Association. Thank you all again for being with us. Ron, let me begin with you. The legality of this law, how do you see it? We talked to our other panelists just a few minutes ago. Will there be a challenge?
Well, I think there'll certainly be a challenge because the labor unions that are so vehemently opposing the type of open competition, pro-taxpayer reforms that are in Proposition A continually turn to government and the courts to interfere with these type of reforms as they move forward. That being said, I think it's going to withstand that court challenge eventually. That hasn't stopped the labor unions from using their influence in Sacramento to try to influence the outcome here in San Diego. But this is an important next step in the road to reform in San Diego. It's pro-taxpayer. It will help us by taking off the table agreements that are anti-taxpayer, that limit competition, and that really these project labor agreements that they would limit do not have a very good track record of success either in terms of getting the job done or meeting their own local goals.
Pat brought up a good point a minute ago that it's going to cost the city millions of dollars in lost funds because the state obviously would require those funds be used for city projects. How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't think that's true at all. I mean, what we've seen happen is that when the labor unions, which are so scared of yes on A, knew that this measure was going to move forward, just like it did at the county, passed with 76% of the vote, they went to their friends in Sacramento and got them to pass a law that threatened to cut off certain state funding for San Diego because they wanted to interfere with our own local vote here locally. I don't think that law is going to last for 4 seconds in court. But it does make a useful argument that they put in these mail pieces and elsewhere to say that, oh, this is going to cost all this state money. What the reality is that what costs us money is when these project labor agreements, and that's a term every San Diegan should understand, are adopted in places like San Diego Unified, which put a project labor agreement, which forced a project labor agreement on billions of dollars worth of construction projects in the district. And at the end of the day, a study found that it drove up construction costs by 15%. And that means that you can build 15% fewer classrooms, you can buy 15% fewer desks, you can do 15% less work because this agreement, which is anti-taxpayer, anti-competition, it limits competition, drives up costs.
Pat, what do you say to Ron's argument that one, it drives up cost, and two, that labor unions are getting all the lucrative contracts here?
The contracts go by competition, so I wouldn't say that labor unions are getting all of the lucrative contracts. The point that he keeps repeating is that studies show that these are higher costs. There are studies going both directions, and more studies show savings with PLAs. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, City of San Diego has never used one, but private industry has used them. Private industry, as conservative as the Disney Corporation, uses them because they're efficient, they're effective, they come in on time and on budget or under budget. So PLAs are not really the real issue here. The real issue is why put a ban in place when there isn't a problem? The city has never used them, and if we vote no on A, the city retains the option of using them. They're certainly not required to use them. There's no state law or local law that requires them to use a PLA, and they haven't used them.
Scott, if there's not a problem, why Prop A?
Well, I'd like to bring up also that there's 13 states throughout the country that have also passed similar language. And then last Friday, the U.S. House of Representatives, for the first time in history, passed fair and open competition through the House. So that's heading to the Senate now. So there's a national movement. This goes beyond San Diego. There's a national movement among taxpayers to get the biggest bang for their buck, and that's what Prop A does.
All right. I wish we had more time. We only got a couple questions in on this segment, but of course we'll be, as we get closer to the election, talking more and more about Prop A. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for our discussion on Proposition A. Coming up, KUSI's Ross Becker will be bringing us an in-depth look at Proposition B. That's next.